I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another incredible, and I do mean incredible, episode of The Smorg. It's the Smorgasbord with me, Jerry Malowskis, and
Chris Baquet. How you doing, everybody? I'm here to pick up the pace of this show a little bit. How you doing, everybody? Thanks, Jerry, for stepping in there.
Hey, anytime. I feel like I'm the one that's actually bringing based out.
Well, you just had a 40-minute nap.
Oh, that's true.
Guy comes out here once a month and he falls asleep on my couch.
Like, what can I say? You played that piano jazz music and I just went to sleep.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to be classy. I didn't realize it put you to sleep.
Yeah, well, it does. You know.
Anyway, welcome to the Smorgasbord Radio Show. This is Chris and Jerry. We've been doing the show for 40 years or so. Jeez, what losers we are. No, seriously, this is episode 164 of the Smorg Show podcast. And I'm Chris, and this is my good friend Jerry for over 40 years. And Jerry comes out here every now and then to help carry the load of the show.
Because sometimes it can be a heavy load.
I've had various co-hosts over the years.
Yeah. You were your daughter at one point?
Oh, yeah. My daughter for a good part of the last 10 years or so of this show. And then, of course, Dave from the original days.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. Well, Dave also from some of the newer podcasts. So from the podcast era, he was definitely here as well. And
yeah, there's a period of time where Dave was coming out here quite regularly, and we were doing a show again, kind of like in the frequency that you were coming out now.
Yeah. And then you said something to him, and
I must have offended him or something. It's like,
it's going so well too.
It could be creative differences. No.
Like, well,
Chris, I don't like the way you're taking the show. It does all this pop culture and
whatever.
It's news events. You're bringing it down, man.
Yeah. Well, keep it light and breezy.
Is my Dave Jackson right on? Spot on.
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, it's kind of adjacent to your Roger Waters. I think people in the show must have heard you do your Roger Waters.
Hello, darling.
Yes.
My pompous voice. Get really close to the microphone.
That's right.
Hello, darling. Okay, so anyway, let's
get into your skull.
For those of you just tuning in, this is the Smorgasbord Radio Show. This is a variety show, Smorgasbord. You go to a smorgasbord, you see a variety of food. Had I known that I'd be using this 40 years later, I probably would have come up with something else because nobody is online searching for smorgasbord in the podcast realm.
You should have called it a buffet.
It's not a buffet. It's a buffet of free thinking. No, I don't know. But, it's like, it's not something people search for. So it's difficult to get. Well,
at the time, it sounded wacky, so that's why you chose the name.
I know. I got the history. I know.
I'm just, but so I mean, you know what? Maybe smorgasbord as a term will come back. Give it a chance.
And first of all, credit where credit is due. Pete McCain was the original genius behind it. So that's why I can distance myself from it. But it's worked. Back in the day when we were in high school and we did the talk show, it was cool. Put it on little business cards. You left it around all the little payphone booths.
Yeah.
And there it goes. And then I tried to make it hip in 2010 First of all, when you use the word hip, you're not really hip. But anyway, I was trying to make it more advanced, and I called it the Smorg Show, and that's even less searchable. So what do I know? Big marketing genius here.
Yeah, smorg, because people getting the smorgasbord, there is some historical precedent for that, but who says the term smorg?
No, smorg.
People will be thinking that marshmallow, graham cracker, chocolate. I'd love to, I'd make those smorgs when I go out camping.
Well, actually, we've got our own recipe here on the Smorg. We've got our own s'mores recipe. Yeah, we've got the s'mores recipe on our Campfire S'mores episodes. We were out and we had our own little recipe. It was basically, if I remember correctly, we had Granny apple.
Okay.
Granny Smith apple, because in honor of Granny Rose, one of our old characters on the show.
Okay.
She hosted the barn, 100th episode.
Yeah.
Granny Rose.
Granny Rose.
So we had the Granny Smith apple on the s'more, and I think we had I think we put peanut butter on there also. So yeah, that's a recipe. No charge.
Okay.
So anyway, man, we've gone off tangent a few times in that opening. So let's get on to point here. So we've been away for about 6 weeks or so since you were out here the last time. And
it's probably why we went all over the place, because we have so much just been building up like pressure in our head, like we're going to explode with entertainment.
Yeah, there's so much pressure when you're a creative genius to be able to hold back and not have more frequent episodes.
Yes. Well.
Anyway, the reason why we've been away, I was actually out in New Jersey last weekend for my dad's 80th birthday.
New Jersey. By the shore?
By the shore. Went to Point Pleasant. And they're just starting to get the things open, all the exhibits open.
Exhibits?
Not the exhibits, like the boardwalk, all the stands, the concession stands, the arcades. You can tell that there's this summer is just around the corner vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Get the seagulls are coming around. They know that it's just a matter of days before they'll be able to start eating the food that's people leave behind on the ground. Yeah. The whatever, caramel corn, fried Oreos, all the good boardwalk food.
Seagulls, the pigeons of the sea.
That's right. But there is something that I really enjoy about the boardwalk, especially when there's no people there, because it was pretty much dead earlier in the week. Just the smell of the salt water in the air, and you can start to smell. Some of the stands are opening, so you can smell the pizza and all that sort of thing. And it's unfortunately, the prices have just gone incredibly high since I was there last time. This is like Disney food. Of course, Disney is probably even more expensive now, but when I went to Disney 10 years ago, it was expensive. When you pay $8 for a soda, $15 for a hamburger, and it's like you bring a family of 4 there, and it's easy, over $100 for your dinner, and you're eating boardwalk food.
Yeah, you have to take out a small business loan in order to go to the boardwalk. In order
to play the claw game, the little it comes down and it tries to pick up a stuffed animal. $5 for one claw, and then and
it usually almost always drops whatever you get your claw on.
It rarely ever gets something. So you get this empty claw, and that's it. $5 gone. Yeah, but now they got something called play until you win, so you can keep doing the claw for $5. And eventually you get something. But when you look in there and you realize what you're paying for even $5 for, it's like this little rubber alligator thingy. It's like, hey, I won. Yeah, but you spent $5 for 5 pieces of junk.
Yeah, probably something that made like 10 cents to be made.
Yeah. So it was just kind of depressing in the sense that, oh man, this used to be a place you play skee ball for 10 cents. And I guess,
they wrote a song about it back in the day. Up on the boardwalk.
Yeah, something romantic. Romantic being under the boardwalk with your gal.
Yeah, exactly. Or I was saying up on it, but under the boardwalk. But, I don't know. I just get this feeling that what we knew, I feel sorry for the younger generations, because for what we knew from what we were growing up, it doesn't exist anymore, and it's not gotten better. When we were younger, we would think, oh yeah, things kind of suck now, but in the future, things are going to get better. People are going to get their act together, and we're going to improve as a society. We're going to get more technology. We did get more technology, but it didn't improve. It did not improve.
Yeah. It seems like one thing after another, one tradition, one pillar of society that you can count on is just slowly eroding. And I guess people have always longed for the past, right? No matter what generation you're in,
Yeah, it does. I don't know. Maybe, again, I'm taking it from my perspective, which is limited, but it does feel that things are going in a bad direction in a way that's a little bit more daunting, a little bit more scary than in previous. Because, if you were from the 1800s and you started to see electrical light, but some of that stuff was actually at the time a real big improvement. You had electric light, you had cars, and, there was something that kind of pointed to at least a more convenient.
I am not Morgan Freeman. What you see is not real.
All right.
Well?
All right. That was unplanned. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Our engineer is taking a break. Sorry, we will get back to the point of that opening once we wrap this conversation up here.
Yeah, well, actually, it can kind of tie in because we were talking about how, things got better maybe with some of the technology, but maybe not all technology is for the better. Mm-hmm. So maybe that could tie it in.
Yeah, we're going to definitely get onto that. But just to close out the opening, so I went out to surprise my dad for his 80th birthday. I had bought these plane tickets a couple months ago and talking to him, and he's talking about, you're going to be coming out this year, whatever. But it was really difficult for me not to blow the secret. So I was relieved to get it done, but it was so cool. I mean, my stepmom and my sister picked me up from the airport, and we were driving back to his house, and we didn't know if he was going to be out front, sitting out on, the driveway or doing his lawn work or whatever. So they dropped me a couple of blocks off, away from the house. And then they sent me a text saying, okay, he's either inside or outside. He was inside. So that meant walk up to the doorway and ring the doorbell. So I rang the doorbell, he opened it up, and all the tears flew. And he was very touched that I came out there. So it was a really nice weekend. So that's where I was.
So beautiful.
It was so beautiful, yeah. Other than that, not much else to report here. So let's go on to our first segment, which is not the feature topic of the show, which will come later, but it is nevertheless important. Now, admittedly, I think we've been a little bit behind the eight ball on this one. I think it's time for us to get into the game a little bit on this topic as we go forward, because I think the genie is out of the bottle, and I think they're trying to contain it, but I'm not sure how successful they're going to be. Now, we joke around, and we're talking about this ChatGPT, and I've been hearing a lot more about it lately, and it's like, do I need to worry about this?
A lot of chat about the ChatGPT. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. A lot of chat about it. Artificial intelligence, let's just call it. Now, we joked around a little bit with it back, I think it was episode 161 with Leah 27 when we called the chatbot. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about the EctoLife artificial womb facility, baby factory. So all this science is catching up to us in that sense. But it seems like this thing, whatever this thing is, it seems to be going into new territory that I think we need to be.
Oh, this is interesting because I'm not really, I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. I mean, I've heard about the actual software, but I didn't really know that there was a new development other than what I've heard.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about it, and I am by no means an expert on this, so I'm going to lay that out right on here that I'm learning as we go. There were some hearings on Capitol Hill this past week, and I think that's what kind of caught my attention with the OpenAI CEO, Sam Altman. So that's a name you're going to want to remember.
Now, OpenAI, are they the company behind ChatGPT?
Yeah, they're the makers of ChatGPT.
Okay.
And the name comes from open software. So basically, a company makes software that other companies can then use for like their base program, and then they could develop their own custom apps on top of it. So it's open software. So OpenAI, artificial intelligence. So they came up with this ChatGPT, which is basically, I thought, a chatbot. It's like, what's a chatbot? Somebody talks to me online. It's like customer service. Hi, can I help? Okay, that's a bot, but it's a lot more, I think, more sinister than that as I start to hear more about this.
What technology being used for something other than the absolute, best intentions? Oh my God.
Yeah. Now you've probably seen over the years, you're familiar with the concept deep fake.
Yeah. That came out, about 5 years ago?
Yeah, that's about right. This is where you're starting to see politicians, world leaders, celebrities, talk show hosts. Mm-hmm. They speak about things, but they didn't actually say the word. So you've got video of the person, mm-hmm. and you've got a history of everything that they've said. So you've got this database of basically what they how they would say it, their mannerisms, mm-hmm. And then the
tonality of their voice.
Exactly. And then they basically can make the lips move and to say words that they never said. So you can just imagine, and we're going to talk about some of the use cases for this, and we're starting to see some more of the evil things play out on this. Mm-hmm. It could be kind of concerning. So anyway, Washington is also a little bit behind on this. Just watching some of these hearings, you could see the lack of sophistication in some of the questions coming from these congressmen. Of course, they've been focusing on a lot more important things, so they've missed the boat on this one. And then they're quickly trying to get up to speed mm-hmm. on what this is all about. They're just light years behind on the concept. Now, Josh Hawley seems to be the one who was most out in front on the topic, because when I was listening to some of his questions, they were, he knew what he was talking about, where the other ones were like, so why would we want to, it was just so basic, like they're so naive. And
I don't think that's what you want with your politicians, do you? It's some clueless, well, I guess they've always been clueless, but
yeah. But you can see that the Sam Altman was dumbing down his answers for the level of his audience. He recognized that he was not speaking to the highest caliber.
He wasn't speaking to fellow tech nerds.
So I'm going to start. Now, this is somebody I have absolutely no respect for, but Richard Blumenthal.
I'm not familiar with him, but okay.
I forgot. He's a senator out of, I think Trump calls him Da Nang Dick because he always talked about being in Vietnam and he never went.
Oh, kind of like how he called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas.
Yeah, this is one of the nicknames for Richard Blumenthal is Da Nang Dick.
It works out quite well.
So I'm going to just play this opening segment from Richard Blumenthal, and you will get sort of like how it was teed up. Okay, so hold on.
Now, for some introductory remarks. Too often, we have seen what happens when technology outpaces regulation. The unbridled exploitation of personal data, the proliferation of disinformation, and the deepening of societal inequalities. We have seen how algorithmic biases can perpetuate discrimination and prejudice, and how the lack of transparency can undermine public trust. This is not the future we want. If you were listening from home, you might have thought that voice was mine and the words from me. But in fact, that voice was not mine. The words were not mine. And the audio was an AI voice cloning software trained on my floor speeches. The remarks were written by ChatGPT when it was asked how I would open this hearing. And you heard just now the result. I asked ChatGPT, why did you pick those themes and that content? And it answered, and I'm quoting, Blumenthal has a strong record in advocating for consumer protection and civil rights. He has been vocal about issues such as data privacy and the potential for discrimination in algorithmic decision-making. Therefore, the statement emphasizes these aspects.
First of all, I want to say that the ChatGPT, how do you say that? ChatGPT?
GPT.
Actually sounded more on the ball and more it sounded better than the real thing is what I'm trying to say.
I know. So that should have been a giveaway that it was fake. No, but it was a pretty powerful opening in the sense that he was trying to illustrate his point that here's a politician that didn't say these words, and it's being put out there based on learning. It's machine learning. It learns the mannerisms, the context of what the person might be. So, what comes to my mind is, go ahead. You sound like you're going to say something.
No. I'm just listening to what you're saying, but I will just say this in regards to that. If, by the way, he was making the point about how scarily realistic this technology can be, and how it can, possibly not only just represent, but possibly also misrepresent somebody, then he did a pretty good job with that initial example,
right?
And
he's right. There's apps already using this as the foundation that you can actually say, give me a 2,000 word essay on this topic, and then a second later, you get this article of the topic. So you could basically write, your college papers or whatever using the software. I mean,
and really, honestly, how would a teacher be able to differentiate between the chat version and the real version?
And you can take the starting point and say, hey, okay, this is a 2,000 word essay. Okay, so I'm going to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to read it. I'm going to proof it. I'm going to change this. But you basically got 90% of your project done with this. That's just like one use case I'm thinking of. But some of the more nefarious, back to the point about misrepresentation. Here's an example of a deep fake of Zelensky telling the Ukrainian troops to surrender.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin is deploying a new weapon in the war on Ukraine: deep fake videos. This one purports to show Ukraine's heroic President Zelensky supposedly telling his soldiers to surrender and give up your arms. But no one was fooled by such an obvious fake. Here it is side by side with the real Zelensky, who's been praised around the world for his bold leadership and refusal to abandon Kyiv. Sam Gregory is an expert on deep fakes.
The man's body doesn't look like Zelensky, his neck doesn't look like Zelensky, his voice doesn't sound like Zelensky, and his face just looks kind of odd. But these kinds of deepfakes can fool people.
President Zelensky responded quickly to the deepfake video, telling his people there will be no surrender. The only ones who should give up arms are Russian soldiers.
I'm thinking you don't have to be very intelligent to pull something. I mean, the world population, and I'll talk about our country in particular, we got a lot of zombies out there that would believe anything that's thrown at them. So I can see something being put out there and people follow. I mean, look at War of the Worlds from almost 100 years ago.
Well, that's a good point.
You listen to it now and it's obviously very fake. But people, they're going nuts on the streets back then.
Yeah, didn't some people commit suicide that night or something?
Now, not all of them are convincing, and apparently I didn't see that one, but apparently that one wasn't convincing. But
well, it's Russian technology.
I mean, they could broadcast it. You may not have to see the video of seeing, okay, that the lips aren't matching up or something, or that doesn't look, that fake neck or whatever he said, like they put a different. But if you put it over the radio,
right,
I think you lose a lot of that. And now this one is a little more obvious. This is one of Putin. Here, 1 second here.
Okay.
America. You blame me for interfering with your democracy, but I don't have to. You are doing it to yourselves. Polling stations are closing. You don't know who to trust. You are divided. There are strings we can pull, but we don't have to. You are pulling them for us.
Okay, I don't know what this is. That's okay, that's good.
I didn't know that Vladimir Putin sounded so close to Bela Lugosi. I want to suck you. I just imagine him saying, "I want to suck your blood." Yeah. So anyway.
So Anyway, so some of the dangers that I was thinking of coming out of this, thinking about this, it's like, well, first of all, psychological manipulation. That's obvious from that. They're talking about voter manipulation. Imagine, just even this last couple elections, and in particular this last one, where there's all these bots all over Twitter giving these false, there's like nobody behind the tweets, but they've programmed them to kind of flood the zone.
Right.
And now you got this, which amps it up 100-fold with actual people maybe saying things, scaring people into voting a certain way.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Just mass disinformation by bots, just like I said, flooding the zone.
It's interesting because the media is always out there flogging that concept, misinformation. But the thing about it is anybody can play that game. The media can play that game for misinformation. Independent sources can do that. So it does get down to like, who can you trust?
Yeah. Because
there's really no authority. Just I go there and I know they'll be telling me the truth. You don't have that anymore, especially not and the chat software and also the deep fake video and stuff can definitely give you that sense of, like a Twilight Zone episode. It's all surreal. It's all, you don't know what you can actually
yeah.
You can anchor yourself to, you just don't feel you can anchor yourself to anything because none of it's really real.
Yeah.
Like a house of mirrors.
There's also a term I'm hearing about. It's artificial general intelligence. I don't know if you've heard of that. The way I understand it, it's almost like artificial humans. This doesn't exist yet, but it could quickly get there. They're already starting to show these robots that are walking around.
Well, yeah, I've seen that.
Add this onto the layer, and all of a sudden you've got basically like this human being bot walking around.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe a few years off, but it's not hard to kind of see the trajectory of this. But I think more immediate, I think you can just think about general blackmail from something like this. You could have making anybody look like they're saying something, doing things, compromise positions, take it from there. It's like, hey, that's not me. Well,
true. Now, the thing is there going to be, in the past, it's actually, we've seen a kind of a forerunner of this with like things of like faked video or in photos, things like, whatever, could be more on the, I don't know what you would want to call it, the more exotic side, like, fake video of UFOs or Bigfoot or something like that. And it's like, we figured it out. It's fake. Is there any kind of technology that can then like decipher what a deep fake is as opposed to an actual real snippet of video or something like that? I mean, what is going to be there to actually, sniff out the truth?
Yeah, I mean, right now, some of them are pretty obvious. You can see that it's not matching up. But I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that in 2 or 3 years, 5 years tops, they're going to have this all figured out, and it's going to look seamless, and you're not going to know what's real.
Yeah, and things with the technology literally is changing by the month.
Yeah, exactly. It's quick. It's exponential. I can't keep up with it. Now, another thing that concerns me, and this is sort of like my last point on this, something to watch for. You watch these Capitol Hill hearings and they look very concerned and they're all kind of like, They talk the tough talk, like we're going to push back, we're going to regulate this, we're going to shut this down. But I would watch out for a collaborative relationship like we've seen with pharma, other big tech sort of issues where Congress looks like they're watching out for the people. But once they figure out how they can get a cut of this themselves, how they can get in on the game, that's where we don't have anybody fighting for us, my man. You got a few rogue, good.
Like maybe a Rand Paul or something like that.
Somebody, you would think that they're looking out for us and they're trying to push us down. But
but again, they're always the outlier, and then everybody else just kind of jumps on the bandwagon for for their own selfish reasons. Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a brave new world that is one I really don't want to be part of, but it doesn't look like we're going to have a choice.
I'm afraid you're right. So anyway, I thought I would introduce that, and I'm sure we're going to come back to this in future episodes, but that was just a taste of a new era that we're entering.
This is Breaking Baba News, live from Punjab. A big announcement to make. India officially becomes world's most populous nation. At 1.42 billion in population, India has finally surpassed China and has knocked it into second place, the first time in nearly 75 years. And at the current birth rates of both countries, India is projected to be double in China's size by the end of the century. From a global economic standpoint, this has massive implications. The economies of both China and India rely heavily on manufacturing, which requires a huge workforce. For years, China has leaned on its population to lead the world in manufacturing and offered the world a very cheap labor pool. However, with China's declining birth rates and its aging workforce, India is stepping in to fill the void. India, by comparison, is incredibly young, with 600 million under the age of 25. As such, the Indian government seeks to leverage and offer an even cheaper labor pool. India is the world's largest democracy and is really a success story and testament to the free market system. After decades of loose socialist control, India has become more open and supportive of global trade. India has made a great deal of progress over the past 2 decades. For example, since 2000, the GDP of India has increased tenfold to 3.1 trillion. Poverty rates have plummeted from 55% in 2005 to 16% in 2020. In 2007, 30% of the Indian population had no access to electricity, and today it is only 7%. And probably the biggest and most important gauge of a country's success and prosperity, in 2014, less than 10 years ago, only 40% of households had a toilet, and today it is 99%. Baba is so fortunate to be part of the 99%. By the year 2025, Apple plans to have 25% of its iPhone production done in India. And, of course, there's a flip side to all of this. The growing pains create some challenges ahead. Finding enough work for all who want to enter the workforce will be a battle. Right now, the labor participation rate is at 39.8% compared to that of 62% in the US. Only 66% of women are literate, and only 1 in 5 have a formal job. This must change in order for our country to truly flourish. This is Baba Gonesh, and this has been Breaking Baba News, live from Punjab.
You're listening to the Smorg Show podcast.
Don't change the dial. Radio experts want to keep AM radio on the road as some car manufacturers start phasing out the technology in newer vehicles. Fox 43's Matt Kleindon spoke with one local professor about the potential impact of tuning out AM radio.
Your favorite AM stations might not be available during your commute, depending on what car you drive. Electric vehicle makers like Tesla say they won't put AM radios in their cars, arguing the vehicle systems interfere with AM signals.
I think it's a mistake, but I'm not surprised that it's happening.
Jeffrey Schiffman is a radio production professor at York College and spent many years working at AM radio stations. He says AM radio has fewer listeners in 2023 as younger audiences tune it out.
If you look at the demographics of the car companies that are saying that they're going to take it away, their demographics are much younger.
Local stores like Megatronics provide audio systems for people to listen to news, sports, and music in the car. However, the method to get that audio is shifting away from FM and AM radio and more towards Bluetooth.
They might stream their Spotify through their car. So if you can stream your Spotify, why can't you stream your AM radio station?
Schiffman says the broader shift away from AM radio could impact rural communities, since AM signals travel farther.
If you lose power, a battery-powered transistor radio is going to be able to pick up AM signals and FM signals. But if you're really far away from an FM signal or in a rural area, you may only pick up the AM signal better.
Schiffman says more AM stations are looking to adapt to broadcast on multiple signals.
A lot of them have looked and said, look, here's the future. We know where it's going. Let's find an FM signal, buy that signal, and broadcast on both AM and FM.
Matt Kleinden's Fox 43 News.
Yeah, so...
Oh, you know.
Yeah. Go for it. What do you think?
I'm split about this.
Yeah, I am too. I'm anxious to hear your take on this too.
Well, I think the thing is, it's always been a situation where when technology moves forward, there's going to be losers. There's just going to be people that are just not going to be able to keep up. The technologies are going to fade away and other technologies come in to replace them. On the other side of this, there may be things about AM radio that are, will have a social impact once it's gone or, is greatly reduced.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, I think if people listening to this podcasts, which is ironically, we're kind of like being a podcast, we're sort of a little bit of an alternative to radio in general. But the one of the thing is that there is always been a kind of a forum, if you will, kind of like with talk radio and call-in radio, where, voices were heard on these shows about like the issues of the day and all that. And while I know that the talk radio format, which used to be pretty huge back in the day, is shrinking, it's still there, and it does, provide a very, it has a use in society, and if it starts to fade away, what are we losing? Mm-hmm.
This episode was actually written or prepared with having you and Dave here in mind, because I think Dave would have had a lot to say on this topic as well.
I always thought Dave was more FM though.
Yeah, but he's more of a radio guy in general. I think he would have a lot to say on that.
Well,
not to say that
true.
I'm diminishing. I wish Dave were here, and not that at all. I was just thinking about Dave in this, but I think this would have been a topic he could have contributed to. Some of this other stuff, this woke stuff and the cultural stuff, he kind of sits on the perimeter and kind of lets us take over. But I think this would have been in his wheelhouse.
This would have definitely been his wheelhouse.
But
sure.
I agree with you. I'm first of all, I can't remember the last time I actually flipped on AM radio driving around, honestly. I've got my iPhone in there and I stream everything. Mm-hmm. I stream podcasts. I will stream occasionally satellite radio. Now, some of my podcasts are directly off of AM radio shows. Right. So like somebody out on the East Coast that it can't get out here on the radio, but he puts out a show and it's a podcast. Yeah. So...
But you say that about the AM radio, but to tell you the truth, when I've been in the car, I don't think you've ever even turned on the FM radio.
I don't listen to radio.
So
radio in general is kind of dead to me in the sense I still have obviously got a soft part of me. It's like historic. It's like you can't kill AM radio. Now there's a lot of reasons to keep it, And there's some suspicion as well as to are they trying to silence conservative talk, because that's primarily what's on AM radio today. Nothing else. They're not playing music anymore.
No, that's
maybe
true.
Sports.
Yeah, sports radio is probably the other thing, and maybe they'll end up like they might end up, what's the word I'm looking for here? Moving the sports talk over, because again, a more non-political medium would probably be more palatable for those who run these outlets, run these stations. But on the other hand, I look at the whole, not only that we be losing this format, but then again, I'm looking at it from perspective. If you did want to actually kind of control the narrative, it's going to be a lot easier to do that once you've lost,
shut down that.
Yeah, once you've lost it. Well, Rush Limbaugh's not around anymore. But
I was just going to bring up Rush. It's like there's been nobody to step in and fill that void. So now really. AM radio is really just a wasteland, really.
Generally speaking, I kind of agree with you. I was trying to think of somebody who's kind of prominent commentator. I'd say something like the Daily Wire, but then again, they are much more on the internet, and stuff. So they're not real. I mean, I guess Ben Shapiro's got his show.
Yeah, he's got his show. Daily Wire has their own thing, a Morning Wire, which is 15-minute news of the day. It's kind of like the NPR on the right. It's that format.
Well, that's kind of cool.
But interesting. So the reason why this is happening, apparently, this is what they're citing. It's primarily the electric car models. They're being phased out of BMW, Volkswagen, Mazda, and Tesla. And they say it's due to interference issues from electric engines. They apparently compete with the AM radio signal.
Okay.
However, Ford plans to take things a step further and eliminate AM from all of their vehicles. So, yeah.
And like you said, that only would affect like a small segment. I mean, I don't even know how many electric vehicles they make. So it would be all the other regular
pickup trucks.
Trucks.
I don't know. Pickup trucks aren't generally all wired to the gills for streaming apps. I don't know. In the backcountry.
Well, yeah, and I think the people that would, be driving those trucks, especially in the more rural areas, would probably be more amenable to listening to AM radio than the FM radio stations. I mean, maybe I'm making a big assumption here, but
no, I think about the demographics. Yeah, I would say so. A part of the country they're in rural areas,
and like you said, FM signals don't bounce around and go as far as the AM ones do. So if you are in the more rural areas, AM does seem to be, basically a really good backup.
Some other manufacturers have indicated they are working on the technology that would remove the interference problem, but Tesla doesn't consider it necessary to find a way to solve the problem, saying that anyone who wants to access an AM station can do so via mobile apps. Now, the other thing is the AM radio audience, I think, is an aging population. Mm-hmm. So how much of that segment is really going to go out of their way to find the alternative ways to stream,
I don't see people in their 70s and 80s and maybe late 60s be like, damn, I'm going to get that thing on my smartphone.
Yeah.
I just, I think that those are the generations they still like selling the flip phones to.
Yeah, all right. The jitterbug. You ever seen those models with the big numbers? It's all it is, a keypad of just the numbers.
Yeah. Well, I can't. Number 2. No, it's 3. Oh, darn it.
Talk show host Mark Levin had this to say about it. The automobile is essential to liberty. It's freedom. So the control of the automobile is about the control of your freedom. They finally figured out how to attack conservative talk radio.
I don't disagree with him in a sense, because let's be honest. We're talking about NPR for a second. A lot of these NPR stations, they're on FM now. They're
that is
local.
true.
Yeah, local here we have WBEZ. And
usually
it's
on the
talk.
College band, the part of the band.
Yeah, but what do they plug in? They're not plugging into the Daily Wire, Monday or Morning Wire thing. They're going to be going for NPR sort of stuff or Pacifica or whatever. So which is highly left wing. So the outlets for that sort of expression are drying up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Mark Levin is not too far off the mark to say that this could be a very effective strategy to just basically squash, I'll say it, squash a segment of society's ability to, express itself, really.
Yeah. Now there is there's actually some bipartisan support in trying to keep the automakers to keep AM radio.
Mm-hmm.
And they both have their own reasons for doing so, of course, but it seems to be something that's crossing the aisle. So there's something called the AM for Every Vehicle Act.
Mm-hmm.
It was introduced in both the House and Senate this past Wednesday. If successful, it would reverse the tide. The Federal Communications Commission, while having no regulatory power over what auto manufacturers do, is also applauding the new congressional legislation. Let's see if I can find where there's clear public safety. There's a clear public safety imperative here. Having AM radio available in our cars means we always have access to emergency alerts and key warnings when we are out on the road. Okay. Where is it about?
Well, it is interesting because going back to the rural aspect again, where, you're going to have, especially in those environments, things like tornadoes and other sort of severe weather, and not having enough FM stations that you could tune in reliably would mean that those people could be at a disadvantage.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I can't seem to find the whole point for where yeah. Something to do. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I had some information here about why both sides had their own
why both sides are actually supporting instead of being like one being for it and the other one attacking.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Let's see. Some conservatives have claimed that the shift to AXAM radio is a move to silence the right, but many Democratic Congress people are joining the fight to preserve AM as well, especially those representing rural areas where the need to access information in emergencies are vital. So I guess there's some rural areas where there's some Democratic leadership, but I thought there was something with the immigrants and something in here. I don't remember what their take on that was, but anyway, I have to keep an eye on that. I am not getting an electric vehicle anytime soon, so I won't worry about that. And I don't listen to AM radio really, so I don't care.
If it ain't happening to me, it ain't happening.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it would be a shame. Well, I don't know. Should AM radio really go away? I mean, I think the thing is, in something like that, you could say that you could make the statement that you are throwing away the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah. Yeah.
To use a cliche.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Yeah.
AM radio.
All right, so that was interesting, and I think you got something here. One last thing here to close out the show, or one last segment here.
Okay.
Jerry, hat tip to Jerry for digging this one up.
Yep.
The Anarchist is a worker-owned, anti-capitalist, anti-colonial cafe, shop, and community space. Gabriel opened the space after leaving Vancouver due to its unwelcoming sense of classism. Though he never felt comfortable working in a coffee shop in BC, he knew if he were to have one of his own, it would have to adopt the values that occupy such a huge part of his life. A place devoted to radical leftist politics, revolution, ending capitalism, improving the world's economic system that benefits everyone and not just elites, and most importantly, sparking conversations that will help implement these ideas. Other than delicious coffee, which Gabriel is most definitely an expert in, the shop has a rich selection of progressive political books that he's selling at wholesale prices. I was happy to try some great light roast espresso here. I even tried my first espresso tonic, which is something of a micro-revolution in itself. I highly recommend paying a visit to Gabriel at 190 Jarvis Street, if not for great coffee, for even greater conversation.
I always love business owners who are anti-capitalists. Oh, the irony. So what is this?
Oh, yeah.
So it's Vancouver, it sounds like, right?
No.
Oh, it's Toronto?
No. Yeah.
Where's this shop out of?
No, it's out of Toronto, though it does have sort of the Vancouver feel, that kind of Pacific Northwest, we're all, raging communists here. But no, this is definitely more in the, I was going to say Toronto's the capital of Canada. That's so sad. No, that's not. It's just the largest town, largest city. But they're anti-capitalist cafe.
So this guy was talking very quick here. Can you summarize, like, what were the things that he's pushing? He's opening up, what is it, like a coffee shop?
Yeah, he's opening up a coffee shop. And the idea is you would be, I guess, kind of on the concept of it's not being run for profit. It's run more as to be like, I guess, an asset to the community. And it would be kind of like pay as you can, pay what you can. You don't always have to, like, And so so being anti-capitalist means obviously you're not running things, because when you run something as a capitalist, you're running for profit so that you can make more money to either reinvest into the company or, just to put in your own pocket. I mean, that's kind of what capitalism is.
And this guy doesn't want to make any money. So how's he going to live off of this? If he's going to break even for...
I maybe that was the concept. I'm not really sure, but it was something along the lines. I think the cafe, if you kind of looked at how it was being portrayed in that little snippet there, audio snippet, is that this was going to be an outlet for his political philosophy and bringing this to more and more people about, like, how capitalism's bad and we need to move to a system that's not that, probably very heavily leftist, so pretty much communistic, socialistic society. And he was going to try, I guess, prove that you could have something like a resource as a cafe, as a place to do that, and run it under his whatever political philosophy he was espousing. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how
Okay.
better, but you know what I'm saying? So he could prove that you can be anti-capitalist and still have a viable business, which to me makes no sense, but...
I like seeing these TikTok videos of these teenagers going off on capitalism while they're making their video on their iPhone, and yeah.
It's like you're making your anti-capitalist manifesto on a phone that was made by slave labor in China, and believe me, the people in even though they may be government-owned companies, they're making lots of money.
They are. Well, this guy obviously hasn't heard Baba's latest clip on the on how India has done under the new capitalistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically
free trade and
that's
open market.
Exactly, because I think it's been proven again and again. No matter how, what I find is that commies are very delusional people, because they say, well, if we try it this way, it'll work this time.
We haven't done it right yet.
We haven't done it right yet. It's like, well, not right. And it's been proven time and again that the only system that is effective consistently to bring people out of poverty across the board has been capitalism, free market capitalism, because it gives you opportunity to make the money yourself, to grab your chunk of the market, either by selling your skills or your labor to a company, in the sense that, you get employed by them, or by running your own company and, taking those profits, obviously reinvesting them into the company to maybe expand it, and then also building up your own personal wealth, which is not a terrible thing. That's the thing with communism, is they want to say the idea of personal wealth and personal wealth accumulation is innately evil and bad for society. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. Yeah, I think you can be excessively greedy. I think some of the people at the very top are that, but you can't put that across the entire free market system. Don't you think?
Yeah. And people like to point to those aspects of capitalism that are evil, but the way I look at it, it's more of the crony capitalism, where you've got
your little backdoor deals and stuff like that,
right?
Which cuts out the competition aspect of the free market,
right?
So yeah, if you have that, I'm sorry, I'm getting running a little hot. Sorry. I'm getting a little passionate.
Yeah, I had to give. When I do this is like behind the scenes. Nobody needs to know. So you could have just backed up and not just disrupted that by saying, I'm sorry. No one knew. Sorry. I was giving Jerry the signal that he was a little close to the microphone, and I was pushing him back, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." It's like, oh, you didn't have to say that. No one needed to know.
I know. I forgot. I'm forgetting all my radio edits.
Sorry. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I mean, socialism has always been about taking the pie and dividing it up equally for everybody to get. Capitalism is about growing the pie and making more of it, more of opportunity, more of, carving it up, rather than taking, okay, we can't do any better than what we got, so we got to divide it up and make everybody happy. Capitalism grows the pie.
Yeah, but you never make everybody happy. They all just get used to a certain level of poverty, and then we say, okay,
it brings everybody down to an average.
Yeah, so it's not a thing where it really. And the thing about it too is that if you're just within a certain parameter and you never grow the parameter, then people want to feel, that there's something worth. I don't want to get philosophical here, but there's something worth, in pursuing things in life to make your life better, to make it better for your kids. These are things. It gives goals in life that a socialistic system cannot provide, because it just says you're here, you're in this thing, and you can't move out of this. So you better just be happy with it. And that, I think, leads to a sort of social and spiritual malaise. Okay?
There you go.
Okay. But anyway, there is also a proof in the pudding, if you will, is in the eating, as they say.
Yeah.
Or in the drinking as a cafe. And
so coming back to this story, we never got to the final, the punchline of this.
Yeah, that's right.
How's this business doing?
Well, this socialist outreach, let's see. There's a blog that has been following their
just cut to the chase. It went out of business.
Well, no, that's it. I was going to get to the headline here before you stepped. All right. Anyway, Toronto's proudly anti-capitalist cafe is permanently closing. But as I said, in closing, permanently closing.
But then,
and that was on May the 30th.
Didn't he have a quote there saying, "Oh, it was a big success"? It went out of business, dude.
Yeah, no. It's like it opened back in March of 2022. And it offered people beverages and baked goods, and you'd expect to find cafe, and a side of radical books, art stickers, blah, blah, blah. I hope by openly declaring the business an anti-capitalist, I can motivate people to think and ask about what that means, and let those who are already anti-capitalists of one kind or another know that this is a place for them. And let's see. So, and basically in the end, it was saying that, I forget the quote, but there is a quote that said that basically he did feel it was a huge success, and that it was going to help inform any further ventures he would have in the future. Well, what other ventures are you going to have? Because if this is your first example of what you're doing and it failed miserably under the anti-capitalist system, what are you going to do that's not capitalist, that's going to be successful in the future?
Yeah.
So it's a joke, as most things out of communism are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, that's interesting.
So yeah, it is funny. It is funny to is somebody. I guess, in one respect, this could be chalked up to his youthful enthusiasm, because he seemed to be a younger guy. And so when you're younger, you're idealistic, but you're not necessarily very grounded in reality. So you can have these grandiose ideas, and when they actually come in face with reality, they just crumble all around you.
That's right. Okay. Well,
much as like an ad.
Anything else to mention before we close out the show? Oh, big news. So my in-laws called us up this past week and they said, you guys realize that you guys have I'm getting out of order here. Back in 2020, Kim and I hit our 25th wedding anniversary. And we were supposed to go on a cruise. I think it was a Caribbean cruise with the rest of the family. They were buying us all cruise tickets. So that was kind of cool. But then, of course, COVID hit and the cruise was canceled. And we never gave it any more thought beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
They called us last week and they said, you guys have a credit, you realize? I was like, what? We still can go on a cruise? They said, yeah. You better call the travel agent and find out what the terms are. So we called and they said, you have to book and sail by September 30th. It's like, oh my gosh, that's coming up fast. So we better look into it. So we went on the website and they said you could pick any cruise. And we said, well, we did the Caribbean once before, like a long time ago. It's like, I don't really need to go back there. But they had Alaskan cruise available. So we have booked ourselves an Alaskan cruise in August. So we're going to go to Alaska. So,
north to Alaska.
So yeah, we're flying to Seattle and we are heading north. So that'll be kind of cool. So I'm really excited. It was on our bucket list. It was one of those things that's on the bucket list, but it's never going to happen. And but it's going to happen now. So anyway. I don't know why I brought that up, but that's also, yeah.
Yeah, I just say I'm a little bit old school. When I like to go, if I were going on a cruise, I want to go somewhere tropical, not freezing.
But see, I've done that. Well, it's not freezing in August. It's
that's true. It's
going to be
warm.
Like 60s and yeah.
Yeah.
But I hear it's really beautiful and the wildlife is amazing.
Well, that's true.
They have whale watching, excursions. But we're not going to, I don't know what we're going to do yet. We have to look at some of the...
Usually in these, especially if you go into Alaska, I mean, you do kind of set port. Is that a term? I don't know.
Yeah.
We see, like, would you like go like into Juneau or some other...
Yeah, we're going to Juneau. We're going to be going to British Columbia. We're going to Victoria, I know. Somewhere on the trip. Skagway?
Well, I've heard about Skagway. Yeah. I've also heard that Victoria is quite a lovely... pretty city.
Yeah. So we're not going quite as far as the big part of the state where it's like sticking out. It's sort of like along the coast if you just head north of Seattle, but still it's considered Alaska still. And I already checked to see if we were how close we were to Chicken, Alaska.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
I'm within 500 miles of Chicken. Now, Chicken, Alaska has a history with this show. I think you know the history.
Well, I
could tell it quickly.
Yeah, please do, because I've kind of my memory.
Yeah, so
dimmed.
Back in the old days when I was like 12 and 13, I used to play on the phone a lot, because I was lonely, and I would just call people up randomly. And then we got the three-way calling, and then I would do things like I would call, directory assistants in one state, and then I would like click over while it was ringing. I'd click over to the other line, the three-way, and I would call another directory assistance from a different state, and I would connect them together. And it was an art. I was able to time it so that they both answered the phone at the same time. And you got a guy going, directory assistance. Yeah. What do you want? You called me. No. And I would just love the banter because oh my gosh, where are you from? I'm from Anchorage. Oh, I'm from Honolulu. Just play that, and I would just do this for hours, and then eventually, I am getting to the chicken part soon. Eventually, the directory assistants went from free to 20 cents a call, and I didn't get the memo, and so I was doing this over and over and over again. And then my dad gets his $1,000 phone bill in the mail. $1,000 back 1980 is like, I don't know, like 5,000 now.
or more probably.
Oh my gosh. And he was like, there's no way. It's like, there've been 5,000 directory assistance calls made in the last 3 months. And they figured out that in order for that to be like, to have it happen, you'd have to call like every 20 seconds for like 30 days straight. And it's like, even I didn't do that. So I think I broke the system, and it just basically billed him like $1,000. And for months, he said he was disputing it, and he had the telephone company come out to the place, to the house, to check the wiring, and I didn't know this. And one day I overhear like some talk, like some technicians on the property. I can't figure out why your phone is calling directory. Oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. I'm in big trouble. And my dad had to talk to me. We need to have a talk. Do you know anything about this? So anyway.
Oh no.
So in that process, we found Pete. We talked about Pete at the beginning of the show, as I remember.
And we blamed it all on him.
Yeah. He was in ROTC in high school, and he got a hold of some military map of Alaska, and we were just looking at it, and we came across Chicken as a town, and we thought it was really funny. I don't know why. We just thought it was funny. It's sort of like on the border of Canada, of the Yukon.
Okay.
Like a halfway up the Alaskan coast, the border on the east side.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Chicken is. The only way to find this town was on this military map, so we used to call directory assistants all the time, and they would say, what city, please? And we'd say Chicken. And they're like, Chicken? Yeah, Chicken, Alaska. We need to talk to somebody. Chicken. Chicken? I've never heard of Chicken. And then they would like transfer us. And this would just be a thing we would just do over and over and over again. And then eventually we got somebody that said, we know how to get you to Chicken. It's like, they're like celebrating. And they transferred us. And we get this like, I don't know, we got some local place and they're like, this is Chicken. Well, who would you like to speak to? I'm like, I don't know. Just hung up the phone. We didn't think we'd get this far. And so now today you can find Chicken on any map. I got a road map upstairs and Chicken is on the map. And we say it's because of our persistence to get it recognized.
That's right. You put Chicken on the map.
I did. So that's when we started to get into.
They should have a picture of you like that by the town hall.
Yeah, I know. It turns out that there's like a population of 100, but now there's a Chicken Alaska website. You can go there and get souvenirs like mugs. Mm-hmm. I got that license plate here in the studio, Chicken Alaska, that came from the gift shop. The only way to get there is by like sled. I don't know. There's like no way. There's no roads leading into it or out of it.
Helicopter.
Yeah. So I looked on the map on how far we were going to get. We were 500 miles, I think, from Juneau. Is the closest I'll ever get.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, at least you're somewhere nearby for Alaska.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And that's where this whole thing came from. A chicken dong. A chicken dong. Yeah, we had chicken tongue. Chicken dong, 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 chicken dong. Yeah, and then of course I get my daughter in on it.
A chicken tongue, chicken tongue.
What was I doing to this kid?
Chicken tongue, chicken tongue, chicken tongue, chicken tongue. A chicken tongue, chicken tongue, chicken tongue. A chicken tongue, chicken tongue, chicken tongue, chicken tongue, chicken tongue. A chicken tongue, 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 chicken tongue.
All right, well, this is the Smorgasbord radio show that you've heard so much about. This is Chris and Jerry.
Nothing but the best for our customers. Listeners, I mean.
All right, we're going to close out with the traditional closing theme. This is the Smorgasbord Radio Show. I'm Chris and with Jerry, the Chief Conspiracy Correspondent, our CCC.
You know me.
And we'll be back again very soon with some more crazy antics, a twist on social commentary and latest culture and trends. That's what we're all about here at the Smorgasbord Radio Show. Our phone number is 312-95-SMORG. I keep paying the bill and nobody's calling. All right, take care, everybody.
I got the chicken.